Bonjour folks, and welcome back to the channel. Obviously still in France and still in Brittany, and we are now down a little area called Pen-Her. I'll put the name up below. Has been the case quite often around this part of the coastline, very sort of anti-camper van from an overnight perspective. So we're not going to be able to stay here this evening, but hopefully we'll be able to find somewhere close by to park up. But it's about 4 hours or so before sunset, probably even a bit more. And so I'm just doing a little bit of a recce around the place, just so when it comes to the sort of better light, I know where I'm going to be going. And that's kind of what I would quite often do, even if I'm only going to be in a place once. I try to get here sort of early afternoon and have a bit of a mooch around with the iPhone, with the old X100T, and see what we can find. But it's a stunning landscape, as you can see, and in fact I'll probably do a quick short at some point in the future. The Brittany coastline is incredible, and I think it's a bit of sort of an untold or an unknown gem from a landscape photography point of view, a coastal photography point of view. I could quite happily spend a month just very slowly making my way around some of these coastlines. They are incredible. Anyway, so let's go for a bit of a recce around this little point at Pen-Her, and we'll see what we can find for later on this evening. Well, in one word, wow. Something tells me I'm going to be a little bit spoilt for choice this evening. Now, we're not going to get too much drama in the sky, I don't think. Very clear. A few high altitude clouds, but I think even those are meant to clear off by sunset, but you never know. So really what it's going to be all about is hopefully the late evening light lighten up these lovely sort of white rocks, and there's some lovely sort of amber coloured rocks over there as well, maybe including obviously some of this sort of sea as well with a bit of a long exposure. Oh, just watching a little lizard run past me as well. Yeah, it's 20 degrees today and it's meant to be like this now for the next week or so. Just beautiful. But yeah, this place is rather spectacular, and I don't think one evening is going to do it anywhere near justice, but we'll just try to make it count, which is why I'm spending a bit of time now looking around. I think I already know, because of the sort of way the sun's going to be setting, I think I already know I'm going to go the route that I'm walking at the moment, because I think the area over here to my right, your left, will fall into a little bit more shadow compared to this side of the little peninsula. But yeah, I'm going to have a lot of fun here this evening, so we shall dander on and see what else we can find. Two problems I see. Firstly, I may need to crack open the old X-T4 and the 10 to 24mm lens. The GFX lens might not be wide enough to just give some of that raw drama. Can't believe I'm talking wide as the person who loves to go intimate, but you know what? It might be time. So that's a problem that can obviously be sort of resolved. The other issue is we're going to need more than one night here, and again, that's not really an issue. Just need to come back again tomorrow night. It's incredible. It's absolutely beautiful, and the further you kind of walk around, the more sort of incredible it gets, and get a bit of sort of soft evening light on some of these rocks, and I think it's just going to be outstanding. So yeah, might need to set up camp close to here for the next couple of days, I reckon. Let's mosey on. Well, that's me back to the van. I'm gonna get some substance in me, a drink, and in about an hour's time head back out again. That'll give me a couple of hours before sunset. Yeah, absolutely stunning, really beautiful. And I think as that light, so the only thing we're going to be missing is some nice cloud textures, but I think that light on some of those rock faces is going to be beautiful. So yeah, I guess we'll catch up back out in the field in about an hour's time. Well, that's me back out in the landscape, and I have to admit it's all a little bit overwhelming. And phenomenal environment, but it's just it's a little bit to take in, even with that little recce that I did earlier. It's one of those locations that you need time and time and time again. Now, the lack of any detail in the sky is also going to prove a little bit problematic. Maybe as that sun sets a little bit lower, we're about 2 hours away from sunset, we might start to get a little bit of softer light. So what I'm kind of thinking about right now is maybe a square crop format in a lot of instances, and maybe trying to minimize or exclude the sky completely. Quite overwhelming, but not a bad place to be overwhelmed, I guess. So I'm going to see whether we can find a couple of compositions. I'm certainly not going to do anything wide at the moment. I know I talked a little bit about wide in that little recce. Not to say I won't, but again, I think I'm going to want to wait till the light is just a little bit softer. So let's see whether we can maybe get something up with some of those rock details and see what we can come up with. So a bit like the previous vlog I did a couple of weeks ago, or it might have been last week, I'm kind of losing count a little bit, in terms of taking an image to try and see an image. And that's exactly what I did just up along the way. Now I brought myself down, kind of watching myself a little bit because I'm literally right on a bit of a precipice. In fact, what I'm going to do is just take a seat. Yeah, so making an image to try and see an image. Now what I think, there's a couple of options for this evening. I can either run around like a blue arse fly and make many images, or I can kind of go slowly and try to sort of get a composition that I'm really happy with and maybe just sit on it, or a couple of compositions sort of close to that. Now I'm hedging, most unlike me, I'm hedging towards the blue arse fly mode, simply because we may be back here again tomorrow night. We may choose to move on. But I think what I'm going to do is maybe even a mixture of the two of those. A bit of blue arse fly over the next hour, and then maybe double back on myself. There's certainly an image back out here. There's a little group of islands. I'm not sure whether you were able to see those in the sunlight. And I think there's perhaps an image to be had there when the sun is a little bit softer. So I think it's going to be maybe a bit of a blue arse fly mode, bunch of images, just to sort of really get the wheels turning, and then hopefully in the last half an hour of that light settle in on one or two compositions. So I'll throw up this first image, or maybe a first couple of images, just to sort of get a feel for the place, and then we'll see what else we can come up with. So the lovely big rock face that I was shooting before, I've noticed actually that it's starting to fall a little bit into shadow. And while the eye looking at it now, it still looks beautiful, I think that extra bit of shadow might bother me. So I'm actually turning my attention back to those islands now. The light is still just a little bit too harsh, but I absolutely love the patterns that the sort of froth in the waves are making, almost sort of pulling the eye sort of round to those three islands. And I really do think as that light kind of starts to drop down, this is going to be an image that I'm going to kind of come back to, one of those run back to. So I've kind of come out of the square format and shooting a 4x3. Now again, no detail in the sky whatsoever, so the only thing that I can hope is as that light starts to soften, we maybe get some nice sort of pastel colours in the sky. Certainly not going to get any clouds or any sort of drama in there. So what I'll do is I'll throw this image up now and let you see it sort of an hour and a bit before sunset, and we probably will come back to here maybe but I'll throw this image up anyway and then we'll wander on. So that's us now 1 hour from sunset, and the light is starting to really play ball. Now I brought myself, I don't think I'm going to go any further around. I think that really would be too much blue arse fly nonsense. So I'm going to sort of hunker around here for a little bit and then start slowly making my way back around towards those 3 little islands. I think that's going to be my main focus this evening. Speaking of those 3 islands, I've kind of set up another composition here, both in a 4x3 and also in a 1x1. Now, one of the issues that we have is in the sea below, with a lot of wave action going on, there's 2 relatively large and unsightly patches of kind of flotsam, and including those in the image I think just becomes quite distracting. So it's I would love to be able to kind of compose in such a way that we could include the area of sea where they are, because I think even with this 32mm lens we could get quite a nice kind of bowl effect. But right now, at least one of them would still be visible in the scene, albeit quite small in the scene. So what I'm doing instead is I'm recomposing to sort of remove those 2 unsightly elements. Again, nothing really going on in the sky. However, one of the islands is breaching the horizon slightly, so I'm having to include a little bit of the sky there. Now, I'm including more than probably I'd want to. But I think if I only leave a little sliver in the sky there, I think it might look a little bit like, was it an afterthought? Did I even sort of consider that? So I'm actually leaving a little bit more sky in than I would like. But that evening light now is starting to cast some beautiful colours on those islands. So don't think I'm going to go any further and start making my way back. But we'll throw this image up and then we'll see where the evening takes us. Oh, and I almost sliced off my shins as well in a very nasty accident, so I'm hobbling around like an old man, or more of an old man than normal. So actually we're kind of in luck. That flotsam that I was talking about in the previous scene has now, both of them seem to have drifted away, dispersed, and that is actually allowing me in a 4x3 aspect ratio to get a little bit of a wider scene with the sort of bowl-like effect of the rocks. Now, given the close proximity of these rocks in the foreground, I'm actually focus stacking 2 images together. Probably just manually blend those, because I think all I will need to do is maybe paint in the far distant cliffs and those little islands, or paint in the foreground here. But yeah, that flotsam now has disappeared, which I say is to my advantage, because it does now allow me to, it does open up a couple of other compositional possibilities, taking in more of the sort of sea below. So I'll go ahead and throw this image up and we'll see what else we can come up with. What a beautiful place. Okay, so I think I've made a bit of a mistake. I said I was coming back to shoot that original scene because of the patterns in the waves in those islands, but I actually prefer the composition back across the way. Now, we are starting to lose a little bit of the light. We're still a good 20 minutes from sunset, but I think there's been a bit of a blast of Sahara dust kicking around sort of southern Europe over the last week. Certainly our van will tell you that. And I'm not sure whether that is having some kind of reflection on the quality of the light as the sun dips towards the horizon. But we're definitely losing some of that orange kind of glow intensity. But this composition, I don't think, personally speaking, is as strong as the one across the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hightail it back over there. But it might be that the best of the light in these last 20 minutes has already gone. What a place though. Well guys, the sun has not yet set, still about 10 minutes away, but I'm pretty sure the intensity is not going to come back anywhere near as it was. That was a bit of a, I said earlier about running about like a blue arse fly. I guess that's maybe taught me a lesson. I probably should have stayed where I was for an extra sort of 5-10 minutes, because I think I would have got the best of the light in probably the best sort of composition that I had of the evening. But still, it's a stunning place, and I think I am going to stay in this area another night. Obviously we can't stay up here, so I'm now going to have to go and find us somewhere to sleep, but absolutely glorious place, and somewhere that I could quite happily spend many an evening, because I think you could really hone in some really nice compositions with the amount of sort of texture, the amount of sort of just lines that are sort of just pulling you in, and of course a beautiful evening as well. And probably actually at sunrise, a whole different kind of level of composition as well, albeit I think you don't get the sun until maybe 10-15 minutes after sunrise. But right, well, I am going to, even though the sun has not set, I'm actually going to pack up and jump in the van, because as I said, I have to find us somewhere to sleep tonight. But that has been enjoyable, and we even have a couple of little clouds just coming into the scene, but obviously not taking on any sort of colour, but beautiful. Well, I'll throw up this final image, and once again, thanks a lot for following along, and until next time, take care.